Ladies and gentlemen, MLS Soccer Decision Day is over. We're getting ready for the playoffs. We're talking USMNT tonight on this wonderful episode number 156 of Sons of a Pitch, an American Soccer Podcast. Nick, how you doing tonight?
What's up, brother? Mike, it's good to be back. It's good to be talking soccer. We got Decision Day. We have the playoff standings set. And even better, we have United States men's national team soccer to talk. If we get to it in the second half of the show, they got a couple friendlies set, Wales and Panama, not the previously thought New Zealand. So we are going to talk all sorts of American soccer tonight, and I could not be happier to do it with you.
Absolutely, man. We've got some news to get out of the way here. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Get us to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to give away $250. It's just that easy. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We are over halfway and on the climb to 1,000. So there is that. Also, we've got some Twitter followers as well. Facebook blowing up over here. We picked up a few more on Twitter and Facebook over the week and through the live as well. We had some good action on the live that we did as well. So good stuff here.
Want to say thanks to Abdesamed Azza, Jake Walsh, Issa Tijani, Kalana Musasizi, and everyone on Facebook who's liked and followed along. Thank you to the Dummy Run podcast, What If Football, Philip, Owen Smith, Richmond International Academic and Soccer Academy, Jamie Polney, Playing Out from the Bar. Thank you to Emma Smith. Then again, I think she's more interested in promoting her own interesting content rather than talking soccer, but hey. Whatever works. Thanks to Matt Quigley, the seasoned veteran, and Kafa Tanayat. And also want to give a shout out to Spread the Sand. They are full-on beach soccer. Hashtag Spread the Sand. You can follow them on Twitter at Beach Soccer. There is a United States men's national team for beach soccer. And you know what? They're pretty good. Top 20 in the world. They actually ended up the 1995 World Cup runner-up for World Beach Soccer. So go check out their podcast if that's something you're interested in. All things soccer covered on this show and beach soccer over on that show. So just wanted to give shout outs to everyone who has liked, subscribed, and followed along. Thank you all.
Absolutely. We've got Ryan Anderson joining us. He says, what's up? What's up, Ryan? How are you, man? As well as Daniel Young, New York City looking for revenge versus Orlando and Tigres. We're jumping on with this gentleman. And we've got an announcement here. So a user commented on our last video and said, hey, when are you going to announce who wins the Predict 6 league that you guys did? Oh, yeah, that Predict 6 thing. Remember, I was doing an episode every week and then just stopped. That one was just couldn't get to it every week. But we've got a final result now that Decision Day is done. Coming in third place is Isai, who actually wrote the comment there on YouTube. Second place, Sig Sigma. And in first place, the winner is BGS with 2,025 points. Congratulations to BGS. You are the Predict 6 master of the Sons of a Pitch Soccer Predict 6 League. So well done to you. And maybe you'll have to see if you can hold that crown with our bracket challenge that we will be starting up here. Actually, we just started up the league. The brackets are out. Of course, not full clarity yet because of the play-in games and whatnot, but those will be coming up fast and furious. Get in on that one as well. We've got to discuss a prize for that one, Nick. We'll have to we've given away some money. We've given away, I believe, a shirt as well. So we've got to figure out what we're going to give away, and then we'll go from there. Nick, Ryan Anderson says he already joined the Bracket Challenge League.
All right.
The link is in the description down below. So while you're heading down there, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and then click that over and go sign up and get in our league.
I'm a big fan of giving away swag, Mike. I mean, I call it shameless promotion. But I love giving away the swag. I think everyone could enjoy a nice euphemistic Sons of a Pitch logo shirt, mug, something or other. And for people who don't win and still want the swag, head on over to redbubble.com and look us up over there. So you ready to talk soccer now, Mike, or we got any more housekeeping we got to roll through?
That's it, man. We got to talk some soccer. It's been too long. We got all that housekeeping out of the way now. It's time to talk about these games.
Absolutely. And you know what? It feels like, because of decision day, it feels like the games from earlier in the week they didn't even matter. But you know what? Some of these teams it did, because decision day, at least in the Western Conference, really helped play out the seeding. In the Eastern Conference, there were still a couple teams who were below the line that ended up jumping up and getting in. Nashville, Miami. So there were a lot of implications on this second to last game. And so these games on November 4th actually had some meaning. You could see the teams who took it seriously, who came out ready to play, specifically Orlando, beating Columbus 2-1 and kind of moving up into that 3 spot in the Eastern Conference. That was a big surprise to me. I thought Columbus would be fired up, want to make a statement game. I thought they would have, scored more than a goal. But they end up falling 2-1 to Orlando. Rolling through those November 4th games, Minnesota draws Chicago. Nashville falls to Dallas 1-0. Portland and Colorado play to a 1-0 Colorado victory. San Jose defeats LAFC 3-2 to kind of keep their season hopes alive. To me, that was a shocker. Maybe LAFC took their foot off the gas a little bit. Maybe they're still kind of gelling as they got some of their players back. Try to work Vela into a full 90-minute rotation. But San Jose pulls out the win, keeps their playoff hopes alive for another week. And then the Galaxy drawing Seattle. This blew my mind, Mike. A Galaxy team who has been just struggling. And we're going to talk Galaxy a little later. I ran some numbers on them. But a team who was totally struggling all year to find any sort of identity, to find any sort of offense, hosting a Seattle team who was a favorite to win the MLS Cup, not just the favorite in the Western Conference. Somehow the Galaxy hold Seattle to 1 goal and are able to draw and, again, stay just within that playoff hunt. So those were my kind of big takeaways from those November 4th slate of games. What did you notice? What stood out to you?
For me, it was Colorado beating Portland. That one was a little bit of a surprise for me. Colorado, they're finally starting to gel back together now that they had like 3 weeks off, and they showed that with a win at Portland. That's never easy to do. Fans in the stands or not, as well. LAFC losing to San Jose, that's crazy. But LAFC, they're kind of just in that middling position. They're not going to make the top of the West table. They're not going to be in the bottom. So not a lot to take out from these games. Orlando played well against Columbus to get the 2-1 victory. But no, there's really nothing else to talk about there. We got.
Hey, let me float this question by you then.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off. Talking LAFC here, right? Like, they're kind of in the middle of the table. They weren't competing for the Shield. Vela was out. They had other guys missing time for international duty. I mean, you had Diego Rossi, who's the Golden Boot leader right now. So bright spot there. What does LAFC do in the offseason, Mike? Like, and I think you can speak to this as a big TFC fan who you've seen sustain success from your squad, and every year they're in it, at least, in the last 5 years or so. What do you expect from LAFC? Are they going to kind of keep the same thing and keep trotting out the same squad and the same kind of tactics and the same kind of game plans? But you have to improve at some point, right? You're not winning any hardware. So what do you think they do?
I think for LAFC, I think they sort of stay the course, not go crazy. I would still stick with Carlos Vela. The real main question for their offseason is going to be, and of course they still have the playoffs ahead, will Diego Rossi move on? That kind of changes course with the entire kind of how they run through the gambit. You hold strong. It's been a crazy year with coronavirus. Carlos Vela missed a lot of time, not for injury. Then he missed time for injury. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things in play. Obviously, Bob Bradley wants to keep the core together. But yeah, I wouldn't rush in any crazy rash decisions right now. Depends on what goes on with Diego Rossi is pretty much if he goes, then maybe you look at kind of a rebuild, like a small rebuild. If he stays, you build around and try to upgrade the squad players.
Sure. Transfer market, the website Transfer Market has Diego Rossi listed at 19.8 million as of their August valuation of him. So if they could, if they get 20 million for Diego Rossi, what LAFC would bank, they would be able to buy potentially two kind of up and coming DP players. Like they could go find a couple guys for like 8 million apiece from South America or from some country in Italy. I'm thinking of Italy. I'm thinking like some young Italian player who's coming up, or some European player who's coming up. LAFC could sell him and then bring a couple guys in and maybe have more of a threat than just Vela Rossi. And then if Latif Blessing is, in form or coming off the bench or something like that when he's in the game, or maybe they just go out and buy one big guy and then hopefully Mark Anthony Kaye develops into another striker. So LAFC's got options. No, okay. I'm just saying, they've got options. People are still high on Kaye. I haven't seen enough to show it, but they've got options, and it'll be interesting to see how they address the postseason in the next transfer window. But they still got the playoffs. I don't want to sound like I'm writing them off right now.
Right. But that's it. They've got the playoffs and they've got Champions League. They've got the matchup, as Daniel Young states here. He's got it's a tough matchup against Club Lyon, one of the better teams in Liga MX. So their next 2 months is really going to be a big storyteller for how this club goes. So,
right. And as Ryan Anderson said, it sounds like MLS is going to bring in 3 young DP under 21 slots. So they could take that money and then really invest in some young and up and coming talent. But if they want to win now, I don't know if they go for the young DPs, right? I think they go for guys who can come in and be regular everyday starters, or they sign 3 or 4 guys with Diego Rossi money and really shore up that bench to help them weather the storm of Champions League and MLS offseason and all these different competitions that they're going to be in, probably some friendlies or exhibition matches against Liga MX, whatever the case may be. So LAFC's got a lot of different directions it can go in, and I love watching Diego Rossi play. I would love to see him get sold and then LAFC take that money and buy 2 other immediate impact players and really just give them that much more attacking dimension. That's my thoughts on LAFC.
All right, there you go. Let's get into decision day, man. Lots of games, all the results that matter here. First up, Chicago and New York City FC, which you were watching while we were doing our live stream reaction for Toronto, New York. Mm-hmm. New York City gets the victory, 4-3 over the Fire. Fire missed the playoffs. Columbus beats Atlanta 2-1. Atlanta misses the playoffs. Montreal and DC United with a crazy finish at the end. Montreal ends up winning 3-2 to make the playoffs. Miami 2-1 over Cincinnati to make the playoffs. And then the Red Bulls spoil TFC's day, even though it wouldn't have mattered anyway. The Red Bulls win 2-1, and TFC stumbles into the playoffs as we go. Nick, what are your thoughts on those 5 games?
Well, I watched the Chicago-New York City game, so if anyone wants to get really my in-depth thoughts, go back to our last live feed video. It's under the TFC Red Bull heading, and I jump in with a lot of Chicago-New York talk. But the big takeaways for me is that as good as we have seen Chicago play this season, the games when they're scoring 3 and 4 goals, the games when their midfield is totally in sync, the games when they're flying up the wings and sending in crosses to Sapong and Baric, and Frankowski's getting on the end of some of these. As good as they do that stuff, then they have games like this defensively where they give up 4 goals, where there's periods of time where they don't even know who they're marking. The Chicago Fire need to address their defense. It's been an issue for 4 or 5 years, and unfortunately, the offense just can't cover it up anymore. Francisco Calvo, he's an average defender. As good as he has been as a presence, as a locker room guy, as a veteran, he's playing for Costa Rica's national team. He's an average MLS defender. Jonathan Bornstein, average MLS defender. They can't keep relying on these average guys to hold the back line for them. I want to see them address defense in their offseason. But I will say they've got bright spots on offense, right? Barish, he's third in the Golden Boot race. That was great to see him continually convert. Now, if you want to get into it and say, okay, well, he had a few penalties, maybe that'll overinflate his numbers a bit. But no one, in Atlanta was arguing that with Joseph Martinez was lining up the scoreboard. No one in LA is arguing that when Vela's taking penalty kicks. So a goal is a goal, and especially the way that we've seen in MLS and how good some of our goalkeepers can be, a goal is a goal. I'm going to count it for him. I digress a little bit there. But Chicago's got a lot to build off of, and what I saw really encouraging too in this game, they couldn't get their offensive going through the midfield. So they started lobbing some balls over the top. They got a couple goals that way. It really changed the dynamic. NYCFC had to adjust their defensive tactics a little bit. Even though they maintained a lot of the possession in that second half, Chicago was adapting. Chicago was changing things up. It was great to see. You saw Wiki and Klopas on the bench really kind of talking it out with each other. I don't know how much he wants Frank Klopas' advice based on his coaching record, but they were talking. They were trying stuff out. They're trying to figure out how they're going to change their play to take advantage of what New York City was thrown at them. So a lot of encouraging signs from Chicago, but unfortunately it was not enough this season to make the playoffs. On the flip side of it, New York City showed just how potent on offense they can be, dropping 4 goals. They flipped a switch. When Chicago went up early, they flipped a switch and came back and got the goal. So it was great to see from New York and Chicago both the good, and it was really telling to see how bad their defensives played. And we'll see what New York brings come playoff time, and we'll see what Chicago does in the offseason. So a lot of talk there, Mike. I'll let you address all your notes on the other games we got going on. I know you want to talk TFC as much as it might pain you to talk about a loss.
Yeah, just a little bit. But no, the first things first, New York City's playing well right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they gave up some goals, but they're playing really well right now. That's a team to be reckoned with in the playoffs, no doubt. They could make a run in the Eastern Conference. Now, Atlanta United, I love seeing them miss the playoffs. I hate to say that, but their fans need to be brought down to earth just a tad, and this season has definitely helped with that.
Dude, this season has brought them down and into the earth, man.
Right. I'm sure they will rebound nicely. A full off season here will be good for that club. I think they'll make some good moves and bring it. It starts with a coach. Now, Montreal, somehow this team makes the playoffs. Team is garbage. They have played like garbage all season, and they somehow squeak their way into the playoffs. But again, there's 10 teams out of 14 making it, so not that big of a
playing game. They got the playing game.
They got a playing game. Miami and Cincinnati. Miami squeaks into the playoffs. Both expansion teams into the playoffs. That's awesome. TFC. One thing on TFC. This team is struggling right now. They are limping into the playoffs. Literally limping. The injuries. Larea went out against New York in this game. Osorio got pulled off at halftime. Really wasn't playing his position well, just coming back for an injury. I don't know if there's anything to worry about there, but they played really bad, and they've been playing really bad. As Ryan Anderson says that they played bad in the first half. That performance put them behind the 8 ball. Now the second half was really good, but they were behind the 8 ball the whole time. It was, and I don't know if I'd go really good in the second half. I think they played okay. Now, this team, you can't take your eyes off of them because they do have such experience, kind of like that Seattle team, right? Now, Seattle's obviously not limping into the playoffs, but they have that experience. These guys have been there. They've gone through these runs, and TFC is still in the second spot. So they'll be at home, away from home in Connecticut, although they are still trying to work the Canadian government over to let them play in BMO. It's not going to happen. They'll be in Connecticut. We'll see what happens. But TFC, I'm not really expecting much out of this team. I hate to say it, but I think there is a little bit of them as well. If they don't get to play in Toronto, they're just done with this season. They've been away from home for a long time. They've barely been back in the last 4 or 5 months. that really has to weigh on a team because these guys are human. That's the bottom line. And to be away for a month in Orlando, to go back, be home for a month or so, and then head back out on the road and get to see your family like twice for like a total of 4 days, just doesn't quite cut it for a human being. So that's that. T-Mac has joined the show. What's up, everyone? Glad to see my Union with their first trophy. Absolutely well done to the Union. We will talk about that game in just a minute as well. Hyde Hager joins us. So those are my thoughts on those games. TFC probably not making a big run in the playoffs. Just my assumption.
Well, then, Mike, you got the flip side of all the rest of us who are stuck at home with our families all the time, and we have the opposite effect.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, oh, this is too much of a good thing. This is ridiculous. I can only read my kids so many stories. I can only so many, airplane trips where my feet throw them up in the air before my legs give out. Like, come on, kids, let's go. Learn how to clean the house and entertain yourselves. Anyway, let's take a look at the next grouping of games here on decision day. We're going to wrap up the Eastern Conference and get into the Western Conference here a little bit. Mike, Orlando falls to Nashville 3-2. Again, Nashville proving that they want this playoff spot, that they are willing to lay it all out there, that they can score goals, and they do it against a very good Orlando team, again, winning 3-2. Philadelphia beats New England 2-0, securing their supporter shield, and we're going to get into what that means in just a minute. Colorado beats Houston 2-1, securing their playoff spot. And by the way, a lot of people were saying, well, Colorado would have never gotten in under regular playoff rules. They had to change it because of COVID to make it points per game. Well, guess what? As the table worked out, every team who made the playoffs from the Western Conference was the top 8 in both points per game and in points. So it really made no difference unless you want to extrapolate out all the variables in playing a full regular season, which we're not going to do here. We're not statisticians. So I'm a lawyer. Mike's an accountant. We're not any sort of, I can't think, actuaries. That's it. That's what I'm looking for. Not actuaries, but you guys go for it. LAFC draws Portland 1-1. And then Minnesota drops Dallas 3-0. Minnesota's offense in full gear in that game. So, Mike, I got to say it was great to see Colorado with a win against Houston. Man, it really bummed me out that Houston did not have a better end to their season. I thought they would make the playoffs. They did not. But good for Colorado, taking full advantage of a team that's kind of on the rebound this year with a new coach, with some new players. It just surprised me that a Houston team with all that offensive talent couldn't find the goals. And I'll probably, maybe over the next week, I'll look at some advanced metrics on them, but they just couldn't get their offense going and keep it consistent all season. Also, LAFC Portland, great result for LAFC to kind of maintain their standings. Where is that? As the 7th spot in the playoffs there? Portland. I just feel like we haven't talked about Portland enough since the MLS is Back tournament. They win the MLS is Back tournament. They lose arguably their best player or most important player in Sebastian Blanco to an ACL injury. And yet Portland ends up 3rd in the Western Conference with 39 points, tied with Kansas City and Seattle atop the Western Conference. Are they the New York City of the West? Are they flying under the radar? Are they still playing good enough to make a run to MLS Cup final? Do you see a Portland, New York City MLS Cup final? Like what are we going to make of those two teams here, Mike?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't get ahead of myself. Portland hasn't been playing great lately. New York City playing much better. I like New York City's chances better than Portland's chances getting to the final as it stands right this minute. But one thing that I'm so surprised with, Nick, is you just jumped right over probably the most important game in MLS this week.
Well, I know you wanted to take it, Mike. I know you're talking Nashville, Orlando. No. Talk about Philly, man. They got the hardware. They got their trophy. Congratulations to the Union, to the organization, especially to their fans. It's your first piece of silverware in MLS. Congratulations. How does it feel? And don't you want more now that you got a taste? I'm sure you do. Mike, give me your thoughts on the Union.
Well, I mean, the Union, man, we underestimated them all season long, as did a lot of people. It's funny. I got a comment here on YouTube on our Philadelphia Union season preview. Nice predictions, dupe. Well, I'm like, going back to my picks and predictions video, thinking it's that when I see this thing come scrolling through my phone. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it was a good prediction. I got that one. And then I look at it, and it's on the video for the season preview. So I'm like, just for nostalgia's sake, let me listen to this a whole episode to see how ugly it was. And it was ugly. We had the ceiling as a 5th or 6th seed in the East and a floor the bottom of the East. You were ready to go for 2022. I was pushing for making them spend some money to try and go for some trophies, but I still had them way out of getting a trophy. So congratulations to Philadelphia, very well deserved. They stuck with it all year long. Just a great season, all the way from MLS's back and through these phase 1, phase 2. They've played extremely well. And T-Mac, congratulations. He's just absolutely shocked that they actually came through to win the Shield with only one DP. Only other team in the league with one DP is Colorado. That is crazy. That is a shout to their youth system and their academy and all those young players that they've brought up who are stars in MLS right now. Brennan Aronson, McKenzie, even Anthony Fontana coming up and playing well, even though he didn't get into this one. I don't believe he got into this game. He might have got a few minutes, but look, these guys, it is just amazing to do what they've done with that roster. A great team that plays extremely well together and guys overperforming. And that is definitely awesome for them and their fans. That's for me. It's all about the fans, man. These guys, there's the diehards, the Sons of Ben, these people who probably like T-Mac that have been there for such a long time, rooting these guys on through the tough times, through the bad times, the good times, the okay times, and to get it done, that's awesome. So congratulations there, Philadelphia. You deserved it. Now, don't celebrate too hard. Get ready for the playoffs.
Right. And, we got some great comments here that popped up. T-Mac says, shocked they came through to win the Shield with only one DP, as you mentioned, Mike. He also says, in a normal year, he'd double down and need the cup. But, hey, given 2020, he's fine with just the Shield. That's fantastic news to hear. You're not going to undersell a team. As I've heard people say, if you measure a team by championships, or if you measure a season by championships, then, 99% of your teams have failed. And clearly that's not the case with Philadelphia. They've had a great season. Ryan Anderson says Philly is the new Red Bulls. So let's, I don't know. You think Philly's just going to keep right up there, top of the Eastern Conference and, win a few Shields but never a cup? I guess that remains to be seen, especially now that Aronson's going to be moving on and potentially McKenzie and a few others are getting looks from overseas. So hopefully Philly can reload and keep it rolling. As long as you got Jim Curtin on the sideline, it looks like they're going to be very competitive. But yes, Mike, that's awesome news for New England. That means that they end up in the play-in game against Montreal. So maybe not the worst scenario for New England right now, that if you're going to lose, you lose to the best team in the MLS this season, and then you end up playing Montreal, a team that they should be able to win. And if the chalk holds on that bracket, then they'll end up to go play Toronto, New England, Toronto. Always an exciting matchup. You never know what's going to happen there. So this may have actually worked in New England's favor, or that could just be the eternal optimist in me. I don't know. I made my soft spot for an original MLS team in New England. But yeah, that's kind of what I take out of all of that there. The one other thing I do want to say about Minnesota, unless you got any other thoughts about Philly, New England, anything else right now?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Minnesota. This is something I teased on Twitter earlier today. Minnesota is just an interesting team to me because I feel like we don't know exactly who they are this season. They finished the season on an 8-game point streak, 4 wins and 4 draws over the last 8 games, which that looks great on paper if I were to stop talking right now. But here's the thing. Minnesota has 5 regular season losses. Columbus, 2 to Kansas City, 1 to Houston, which, gosh, looking back, that's tough that they lost to Houston, and then 1 to Dallas. Those are their 5 losses this year. They've got 9 wins. Of those 9 wins, 1 over Kansas City, 1 over Portland, The rest of them, it's like Colorado, Dallas, San Jose, Cincinnati, a couple. Like, if you kind of look at like the NCAA, it's like signature wins or some of the college sports playoffs, right? Signature wins. I don't think Minnesota has any signature wins other than narrowly beating Portland and Kansas City early on in the season, and they never had to play Seattle. Minnesota, as a Western Conference team, didn't play Seattle this year, arguably the best team in the West, if not the league. So Minnesota can feel really good about where they finished. Here, let me double check. Minnesota finishes 4th in the Western Conference and matches up in the first round of the playoffs against Colorado, a team they should beat. But Mike, I don't think Minnesota has proven anything over the course of this season. Good MLS is back tournament, got knocked out in the semis. But to me, Minnesota, as good as they want to feel about this year, they need to play much better because they haven't beaten hardly any quality opponents. That's my observation on Minnesota, on the Loons. Not to dampen anyone's spirits because I hope they do well. Maybe that's the lawyer in me just making everyone
did the same thing last year when they made the playoffs for the first time. You did the exact same thing. So I think it might be a little bit of a Minnesota bias over here.
Secretly hate Minnesota.
But no, they've got to get better. I mean, they're not. I don't expect much out of them in the playoffs. They haven't really proven much this season. They've been constantly middling around the middle of the table. Nothing crazy there. Luis Amaria's had a good season. He's got tons of talent, but I think their biggest the biggest weakness for them is the defense and that goalkeeping. They've got a rookie there with Dane St. Clair in goal. Kid out of college, starting in MLS, that's the first season, that's going to be tough. So you're always going to get some results. It was a tough one. They lost Tyler Miller in the expansion draft. So that's, and yeah, as T-Mac says, and Julian says, some interesting points on Minnesota. Minnesota didn't know that. And yes, they are going to be losing a lot of guys for this international break. And they don't know if they're going to be able to get them back in time with the 4-day, even though they changed it to the 4-day quarantine or something for the playoffs. So only time
change depending on the state they play in too, right?
Probably. So yeah. We'll see. I mean, it could be, it could be an early exit for Minnesota for sure. The last 3 games we got to discuss, we got Vancouver and LA Galaxy. I see some comments over here. Julian says, has Chicharito been a flop? Yes, absolutely. Chicharito has been a flop, a huge flop, a thundering flop. Yeah. Not good at all. I mean, this guy was the biggest signing in MLS history, apparently, and can't even lead the team to the playoffs. Scores, 2 or 3 goals in the season? Celebrates like he's LeBron James, like he just won the MLS Cup on this big goal. And it's like, dude, do you not realize you've had a crappy season? That your prophetic words in the beginning when you first signed of "I've started my retirement now," that's really come back to haunt him. As soon as I heard that, I knew he was going to be trashed this season and be a flop, and he was. So yes, to answer your question, Julian, he was a flop. Vancouver gets the victory 3-0 over the Galaxy. Dude, the Galaxy, man, what a shit show for them this year.
Yeah, and let me get into the Galaxy a little more analytically. But to start with Chicharito, yeah, totally a flop. Absolutely. Given his hype, given his contract, given his international reputation, this guy should have come to the MLS and laid down 15 goals, 8 assists, easy. Been in Golden Boot, been in MVP contention, have LA Galaxy being in the top half of the Western Conference table, top half of the playoff picture easily, especially given the other talent that's been around him. But the Galaxy somehow can't figure out how to actually get all their stars aligned and have everyone playing together. They didn't do it last year with Zlatan. They didn't do it this year with Chicharito. They couldn't figure out how to get both those Santos brothers playing together, even though you think that would be the easiest thing to 2 brothers who play on the Mexican international team. They can't figure out how to get them to play on the same club team together. Absolutely ridiculous. So much is wrong with the LA Galaxy organization right now. And Chicharito just is the epitome of that. Now, yes, his whole like, I'm back, I'm doing my celebration when I score my goal. Yeah, by the way, they didn't even win that game that he scored in, and they didn't make the playoffs. So horrible. Mike, you put up on the screen here Julian Servidio's comment. Should Galaxy just sell to like a Mexican team, maybe? Do you mean the whole organization? Because
Chicharito,
yes. If they want to sell him, if they can get a good price for him, please do it, because they need to invest in some other players, some maybe young guys, and just kind of revamp their entire roster and organization. Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, GBS, their coach, was fired a few weeks ago. Didn't help the team at all. In my opinion, they've had poor international scouting and no youth development, which is going to kill any sort of club here. Now let's look numbers, though. Let's talk numbers here, right? Let's be real. Let's not just use my eye test, all right, or my own bias against the Galaxy, which, by the way, you go to their Twitter account or any of their social media, and it's like the only team to win 5 MLS Cups. I'm like, yeah, the only team who did it, 20 years ago. Fine, sure. Let's look at goals, because their offense has been anemic. Let's be honest there, right? Their expected goals on the season was 26.6. Actual goals, 27. So considering the season we had, considering the number of games played, let's see. They ended up playing, let me look at the bottom of the table here, 22 games. They scored just over a goal a game. Terrible for them. They hit almost their expected goals, but expected goals is based on opportunities created. Terrible offense by the Galaxy. Now, expected goals allowed, let's talk about their defense, was 35.5. Actual goals allowed, 46. They gave up 9 more goals than the metrics said that they should. Their expected difference was 9, and their actual difference was 19. Like, just terrible numbers on all metrics. Now let's look at the players, Mike. Pavon and Legit, 2 best players by far for the Galaxy this season. They combined, these 2 guys, for 16 goals and 6 assists. The rest of the team combined 10 goals, 11 assists. So first of all, thank you to fbref.com for all these great numbers. But second of all, man, Galaxy, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to incorporate the rest of your team. You got 2 guys and everybody else. And if it's not Pavon, then it's Legit. If it's not Legit, it's Pavon. If it's not either one of them, then where's Chicharito? He hasn't done anything. And you know what? Isaiah S. or I say S. Galaxy started the season so good. Disappointment season for sure. Thank you. That sums everything up I've been trying to say for the last couple of minutes. Galaxy disappointment. That's what we have this season for Carson City, LA.
Absolutely. And thanks for joining there, because that I don't know if you just joined us. Is it Isaiah? I don't even know how to say your name, man. But
Isaiah, we'll go Isaiah.
Thanks for jumping on. And earlier in the show, we talked about our Predict 6. He was the gentleman that asked what the Predict 6 standings were and finished in 3rd place, just behind the last 2. I already closed out the window, but 3rd place, not bad, sir. Not bad. Well done. All right, so let's move on from the Galaxy. They're just trouble. The 2 most important games in the West are Seattle beating San Jose 4-1, and then Sporting Kansas City beating Real Salt Lake 2-0. Sporting Kansas City wins the Western Conference on points per game. I just don't know how I feel about that.
Mr. Numbers guy. Come on.
No, I get it. It's technically that's the best thing to do in this situation, but I just have a hard time. Those games in hand we always talk about in these seasons, because the schedules the way they are, they're always like, well, what about these games at hand? Can we win these games at hand? It's always so interesting that now those games in hand just count as points, really. Just whatever you're, 2.1 or 1.2 or whatever the hell you're getting based off your historical record. So, I mean, it's tough. Sporting Kansas City, though, takes the 1 seed in the Western Conference and match up with San Jose right off the bat. So Sporting Kansas City, a good victory. They've been steady most of the year, 12 wins, 6 losses, 3 ties, plus 13 goal differential. The Sounders at plus 21 goal differential, just behind them in points per game, at least. So the Western Conference shaping up.
Well, here, Mike, let me touch on this Western Conference because I know you don't like using the points per game. So let's go to overall points. They're tied at 39, but guess what? Sporting Kansas City had 1 less game played. So they had the same amount of points as Seattle with 1 less game, same amount of points as Portland with 2 less games. And in fact, they have the 3rd most goals for and the 2nd best goal differential. So once you start getting into some of the extended tiebreaker stuff, maybe it gets a little murky. But the fact of the matter is, Sporting Kansas City won 12 games out of 21. Seattle and Portland win 11 out of 22 and 23 respectively. So just a little something to bulk up, Sporting Kansas City there. The one other thing that I kind of want to throw out here, here's your crazy soccer conspiracy theory for the week, right? Did San Jose purposely lose the game to Seattle so they could match up with Kansas City instead of matching up with Seattle again in the playoffs?
No. But I see where your head's at, and I like it. But man, we gotta take a minute here. Halftime break. We've got to talk about our sponsors. On the podcast side, we've got Donovan Food Brokerage, as well as nice premium Iceland Pure Spring water available at your local Walgreens. Donovan Food Brokerage, all of your food service needs. These guys have been awesome. They have been with us for, over a year and a half, 2 years now, almost since the get-go. We really appreciate your financial support here. So all of our listeners, our viewers, however you are consuming this information in this podcast, please take a look at our sponsors and go get some water at Walgreens, some nice premium Iceland Pure Spring water. As well, we have Skira Icelandic Spring Water, 8.88 pH, naturally alkaline. This is available at every 7-Eleven. So if you're thirsty and you're out on the town, 7-Eleven or Walgreens, you can support our sponsors who support us. So thank you very much for that. Now, Nick, we got to talk. We got some other stuff to take care of here. What's next up on the notes?
Well, just a quick note on the MLS playoffs. They will begin on November 20th with the play-in games, Nashville versus Miami, New England versus Montreal. And then the first round, they've got 3 dates set, November 21st, 22nd, and 24th. The official schedule is to be determined. And next week, we are going to do a full MLS playoff preview. So I know a lot of people have had comments on the thread here and have messaged us separately on social media or emailed us, podcast@sonsofapitchsoccer.com. We're going to do our full playoff preview. We're going to tell you just how terrible we did in our original picks and what we expect to see come playoffs. But with that, Mike, there's USMNT action. There is men's national soccer going on. There's international soccer. It's great to talk about. And we have the USMNT has scheduled friendlies coming up this week against Wales on the 12th and against Panama on the 16th. Now, just a little background on these games before we dive into some of the real nitty-gritty. They're playing Wales in Swansea, in Wales, on the 12th. The game will be on FS1, Unimas or 2DN, and it's at 2:45 Eastern, so just in time for like a late lunch for us Central Time folk here. Maybe coming down with a little something. I might have to take a half day of work that day just to catch all of that. Panama, they are playing in Austria on November 16th, and they are playing this CONCACAF opponent, which we will see in World Cup qualifying, which we will see in the Gold Cup. So a couple of interesting things here. For me, Mike, Wales is a wonderful opponent. They are ranked 20th in the FIFA rankings, and the U.S. is ranked 22nd. So you have a very kind of even matchup if you buy into the FIFA rankings. Wales is very much on the uptick over the last several years. They missed a few major European competitions and now are starting to qualify for all of that for the upper tiers of the Nations League, doing stuff in I'm sorry, in all their competitions. What can I say? I'm spacing out because I'm so excited about these games. We all know Wales has Gareth Bale. We'll see if he gets released for international duty. He is definitely a potent striker, someone that the U.S. is going to really have to look for. But against Panama, Mike, they're a CONCACAF opponent. We're going to see them in qualifying. We're going to see them in meaningful games.
Right.
I would expect the U.S. to play their best 11 against Wales for who's on their roster, and then play their second string against Panama and more of a vanilla type of situation tactically, so we're not giving away any secrets when it comes to games that mean something back in CONCACAF. Those are kind of my big picture things, Mike. What are your thoughts on these games? And then I've got a potential starting 11 that I want to share with everybody.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have USMNT soccer back. That is number one. I think I've stated it before. I'll state it again. I'm taking nothing out of these games. There's absolutely nothing to take here. We're getting back on the field. These guys are coming together and playing with each other for the first time in damn near a year. So I have zero expectations of this. Obviously, it's going to be fun, whether they get blown out 4-0 or blow out Wales 4-0. I'm not taking anything from it. So I'm excited to watch it. It'll be fun to watch. I'm pissed that it's at 1:45 in the afternoon. I get it because they're in Europe. But I'm annoyed about that. I wanted to do a live for this game, live stream reaction, but unfortunately that's not going to work just because of, this little crazy thing called work. And until we blow up and, start making a lot of money, we can't do that. So got to take care of the 9 to 5. So either way, I'm excited about the game. I think they can put out a strong lineup and play the kids, man. That's what I want to see. I want to see these young guys who are having success over in Europe. I want to see them all on the field together as much as possible. And let's see what happens. I don't care if they lose 4-0. I just want to see how these guys play and watch the actual game itself, the soccer, how they're playing, how they're handling the Wales players and that kind of stuff. Now, as far as Panama, this one just thrown together at the last minute just because they needed something, because I believe it was New Zealand or Australia or something that backed out. So, I don't know. It's nobody's going to tip their hand in this friendly, right? Because we do have CONCACAF World Cup qualifying coming up. So I don't expect it to be very exciting. It'll be interesting to see what comes of it. But Ryan Anderson says, wonder if I should do a live for US and Wales. Go check out Ryan's his page on YouTube. Just search Ryan Anderson. It will come up, and subscribe over to him. And that would be that'll be good. If you're doing that, I'll have that on in the background here while I'm working. So good stuff there. Ryan's been blowing up lately, man. Since he did that live with us, I was checked out his page, and man, he's doing all these live stream reactions and getting thousands of views and lots of subscribers. It's awesome. Well done, sir. Way to go. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I mean, talk to me about your projected 11s, man.
Sure, Mike. Well, a couple quick things to touch on what you mentioned too, like play the kids. The average age on this USMNT call-up, 21 years, 300 days. The average age is less than 22 here, so that's going to be fantastic. And I think the matchup against Panama is excellent because it gives these young, inexperienced players taste of CONCACAF opponents, the skill level, how they're going to play, but it takes out the whole, I got to go to Panama, I got to go to Costa Rica, I got to go to Mexico and play in that environment. So you can kind of ease your way into some of these CONCACAF opponents. So let's take a look at my predicted starting 11 here, or at least what I would want to see as a USMNT fan here. So in the back, we'll start with the defense because I grew up as a kid playing defense. That's where we're going to start. This is for my game against Wales. Again, I want to see our best 11 in camp against Wales, and then you can play everybody else against Panama. So Stefan, I think, is still the number one. I want him starting. I want to see how he handles Gareth Bale. I want to see how he handles some of these other top players from Wales. By the way, Wales has a lot of players in Premier League, English Championship, French League One, League. So like they're not starving of talent. They're just not, at the levels of like the Messis, the Ronaldos, the Bales, but they've got guys who can play really great soccer. So I want to see how Stefan handles that. I want to see how he plays well with Miazga and Brooks as the two center backs. And then, of course, man, every USMNT fan's dream, Reggie Cannon and Serginho Dest as the wing backs, right? Not only can they play lockdown defense, but then flying up those channels and initiating offense as well. Love to see this back line and see how well they play together, but also to see how well they gel, how well they communicate. Can Miazga and Brooks work with these two young guys in Dest and Cannon and really establish a dominant U.S. defense like we haven't seen since the mid-90s? That's what I'm looking for. Now, in the middle, it was hard trying to fill in, your best guys because there's so much young talent that we have on this November call-up, right? So I'm going to take the best players and put them all in the midfield, the household names: Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, and Tyler Adams. Those are going to be my central mid. We know McKennie and Adams can drop back and help the defense if needed, but we also know McKennie can facilitate and look forward. We know Adams can make these runs into the offensive third, and we all know what Pulisic is capable of, doing it at the highest level in the Premier League. So keep those guys in the midfield. They can defend when they need to. They can attack when they want to. That's what I want to see out of them. And then the front line, if Josh Sargent was made available, I would want him starting up top. But Werder Bremen has employed and taken advantage of a new FIFA rule that says you don't have to release your guys for club duty or for international duty because of COVID, because of not wanting to spread the virus, all this other safety and health kind of rules that they put in or allowances they put in. So they have said, Sargent, you cannot go. You cannot play for your national team, even though you're just going over to Wales or you're just going over to Austria next door there. He's got to stay in Germany with Werder Bremen. So in that case, let's put Uli Lanes up front and just say, hey, kid, go find the back of the net. Just show us what you can do. Like, you've been proving yourself in Germany. I think he was with Werder Bremen. I think he's on loan right now. Let me see. Where do we have him? Over at the Heerenveen in the Netherlands. So playing in another decent league in the Netherlands. Just say, go find the goal. Go get on the end of some crosses. Go make some diagonal runs behind the defense. Don't overthink it. Just go. Just go find the back of the net. And that's what I want to see from Uli Lanes. Meanwhile, on the wings, Gio Reyna and Tim Weah. This is fantastic, man. We're talking about the next generation of the USMNT. Some would say the golden generation of the USMNT here. So again, back to front for me: Stefan, Cannon, Miazga, Brooks, and Dest, Pulisic, McKennie, Adams, Reyna, Lanes, and Weah. That's who I would love to see line up against Wales and come away with a win, hopefully. Mike, there's a lot of other guys on this roster, a lot of guys that people may not have heard of. What are you looking for? What are you thinking from a player development standpoint or from any standpoint? What are your takes on all this?
Well, I think it's good. I think there's a lot of the young talent is there. What I would do is I'd make a couple changes, though. I agree with Stefan in goal. However, I would get Brooks or Miazga out of there and put Chris Richards in, hands down, just because I want the kids playing. Anthony Robinson, I think I might even put him up over Cannon. I think he's got more skill than Cannon. I think he's a little bit better, but that's just my personal opinion. Then in obviously the midfield is perfect. Now you get into the wingers / the forward / whatever. And the only thing that I would do is put in Conrad De La Fuente. No caps. Get him cap tied. Young man playing for Barcelona. I'm starting him right up front there for Sargent, who won't be there because of Werder Bremen. But I don't know if he's more of a wing player or more of like an out-and-out striker. I don't know a ton about the kid, but
Sure.
I would
do you know what other country he could go to? You're just talking about cap tying him.
I don't know, but either way, if you got the opportunity, do it. Okay. You never know with these guys, man. They, one day they've got a brother's uncle in Nigeria calling them. You never know. So I'm good with getting him some minutes and see what he can do, because I want the kids. That's kind of where I'm at. And T-Mac says I'd rather Robinson on the left too. That way Cannon isn't playing on his weak foot. So T-Mac and I are on the same page. Well done, T-Mac. I appreciate it. And so I mean, overall, I'm excited to have USMNT back.
Yes. A couple quick notes then. In the midfield, keep an eye out for Yunus Musa. He plays for Valencia in the Spanish Premier League, or in the Spanish top flight. He has, I think, logged like the most minutes of anyone on Valencia's team or something like that. He has been playing game in and game out for them. So look for him to make a really good appearance either late in the game against Wales or play a full 90 against Panama. And then for Conrad De La Fuente, born in Miami, he's played for US U16, 18, 20, but he also holds a Spanish passport and ethnically is Haitian. So potentially he could end up in Spain or Haiti if they decide to wiggle some stuff around. But let's just cap tie him and put that to bed.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm excited though. I think it'll be fun to have these guys back together. And you got another comment here. I don't know if USMNT are just too young of a team. It's going to be interesting though. Against Wales, probably. I think they're Wales. They've been climbing, so I don't know. Maybe they are just a tad too young. I think it's the lack of cohesiveness that will draw the biggest issues for them. I think on a talent level, I think we could play with them, but we'll see. A couple comments coming in here. Daniel Young says Spain can use him for sure. And then Heithager, I'm Colombian, but we'll keep an eye on U.S. All right, so there you go. We're almost to the end of the show. What else do you want to talk about, Nick? What else do we got? We're going to get ready for next week. We're going to have a big MLS preview episode as well as our normal episode. Or are we doing our normal episode as the big MLS preview?
We'll see. I think we got a little extra data space on the hosting website, so we'll talk about it a little this week, Mike, and see what we need to do to make it happen. But you know what? I'm just looking forward to the U.S. games. We got a couple weeks before the MLS starts, so I'm just pumped. Real quick, Heithager asked about Thierry Henry coaching in the playoffs. Yeah. Huge fan of it. Give me more Thierry Henry. I love hearing his takes on games and everything MLS. And also, let's get him some more coaching experience. That way, we can see him develop more of his talent. And hopefully he sticks around in MLS a little bit. Daniel Young chimes in. It's amazing to see Black Americans playing for Barcelona. Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, soccer and sport has always been a great equalizing ground for every ethnic background, every cultural background, every minority. Like, everyone's on the pitch under the same rules, and you're all playing under the same circumstances. So to me, I love seeing it in sport, and for him to and for Conrad to be that symbol of Black American soccer playing at the highest level. I think it's great. So thank you, Daniel Young, for bringing that up. Mike, that's all I got, buddy.
I got to disagree with you on Thierry Henry in the playoffs, man. That team does not deserve to be in the playoffs. Bad season. Henry has really turned out to be a bad coach from what I can see. The injuries weren't an issue for this team this year. They were healthy all year, except for the odd little miss here and there, but no sustained injuries. And he did bad in Monaco. He's done bad since coming to MLS. And I think the only thing that's holding it for him is his name. We'll see how that turns out over the next year or so, because I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Scudo will probably hang on to him, and we'll see. I mean,
his whole 1 year in MLS. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I'm just not excited about it. I could care less if he makes the playoffs or not. But that's just me, because the name recognition. Maybe it's because it's a rival. Probably is. That's probably a big part of it. But whatever. It is what it is. Overall, though, thanks everybody for jumping on tonight. We had some great conversation. Lots of good questions. I hope we got to everybody. If not, send us an email, podcast@sonsofapitchsoccer, or hit a comment down below, and let us know what you want to hear us talk about. Next week, we'll take all the questions. And as Heithager says, best stadiums. All right, so this is something we've been working on now
Perfect.
for probably about a year. We came up with the idea of ranking the stadiums, and we started putting it all together, and then we actually never did it because we haven't gotten together and in such a long time. But we will be doing something like that over the off season. COVID be damned, we'll get together and we'll do this episode. But anyways, thanks everybody for jumping on tonight. Make sure if you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button down below. Get in our $250 Visa gift card challenge. And we'll be back next week. No picks and predictions this week because we've got no games. And we will see you guys very shortly next Monday night.
Good night, everybody.